Stack. We're coming to you live from Consensus 2025 by CoinDesk in Toronto. Joining me for this segment, we have Jack McDonald, Senior Vice President of Stablecoins at Ripple. We're here to discuss safety, trust, and reliability behind stablecoins. It is great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thanks for having me.
And in 2024, Ripple, you launched RLUSD. It's already achieved a market cap of well over $300 million. What makes it different from what's already in the market?
It's a good question. I get asked often as we were launching this, and I think the origin story really has to do with our history in cross-border payments, where Ripple's been doing this for 14 years. We've been a top minter of USDC, so we've seen the use case. Specifically, what's different about us, and stablecoins, I think of them in different categories. There's either the US dollar backed or non-US dollar backed. 95+% of demand is for US dollar backed. Some are regulated, some are not. We've focused exclusively on the regulated, built for enterprise, dollar-backed, held as a fiduciary sort of stablecoin. And so that takes us on a certain journey, focusing on the institutional customers that Ripple's been servicing and doing it in a regulatory compliant way. And so we have a number of use cases that we're going after, but we're doing it from that foundation, if you will, making a bet that the past really is not our future, i.e. 0 to 240 billion has been led by some large issuers that are not regulated in the same way we are. We think that institutions are going to drive that next leg of demand that are going to really want the sort of foundation that Ripple represents.
Speaking of institutional, you just announced $1.25 billion acquisition of Hidden Road, making you the first crypto company to own a global multi-asset prime broker. How does RLUSD fit into that broader strategy?
I could not be more excited about it. And I think one of the initiatives that we've had at Ripple for a while is bridging the divide between traditional finance and crypto Web3 space. A lot of the customers that have used us for payments and custody are traditional banks, financial institutions. The Hidden Road acquisition just is a further accelerant into that overall thesis. And specifically, their business, which is a very quickly growing and I think very innovative business, really has both traditional finance clients and crypto as part of it. And so we think about how we can introduce RLUSD into their reg cap stack, into their whole way of basically lending money using RLUSD as a form of currency, if you will, within their ecosystem, and really driving more business for them, to be used overall.
Let's take a step back for a moment here. What are financial institutions and enterprises, what are they actually doing with stablecoin today? And what needs to happen for adoption to be achieved at scale?
Well, that's a broad question in terms of different types of institutions. So we talk to, in the payments business, again, stablecoins keep coming up as the killer app for payments. I think many of the customers to date have steered away from using cryptocurrency given the inherent volatility to it. So stablecoins are having a moment there. And I think the reaction we're getting by being regulated invites further institutions to come into that space. So that's part of it. I do think that there's an education that is happening that needs to happen at a greater clip around how stablecoins are really the least crypto there is out there, particularly ones like ours that are backed by US dollars, heavily regulated. They're really an alternative to a US dollar payment. And I think once customers or clients prospectively get their heads wrapped around that, they're going to feel more comfortable when their risk committee meets or when their board meets. The other thing that needs to happen is the infrastructure layer needs to continue to grow out into the ecosystem, right? So we focused in bringing RLUSD to market first on getting availability of the exchanges. We've got some terrific partners. We've got more that we're going to be announcing here in the next couple of weeks. The next layer is really building out the infrastructure. We can't do it alone. So we need more on and off ramps. We need more payment service providers. We need more banks that accept, crypto related companies or digital asset companies to basically pave the road so that stablecoins can be used as a means of exchange and as a wealth transfer. And I think couple those two with some regulatory clarity, which we're clearly getting here in the US. And I think that will be the big unlock for how stablecoins are used going forward.
I think it's important to note that RLUSD is issued under the NYDFS
right.
trust charter.
That's right.
So I would imagine that helps, with transparency, oversight, user confidence. It feels familiar to institutions.
And certainly for institutions, and I think you're spot on. We also, as a trust company, are a fiduciary. So different than if we had been issuing this out of a money transmitter license, for example. As a fiduciary, and this is a little understood but extremely important fact and distinction, is that we actually hold our customer reserves in a bankruptcy remote account strictly for the reserves to be used as redemption currency. So if Ripple or any other issuer that has that type of license were to, go under in some unforeseen circumstance, no creditor could attach themselves to the reserves that are held truly bankruptcy remote. And the way we can do that is because we're a fiduciary under the New York banking laws.
Right.
So that's a very important distinction that we think will induce more institutions to use us going forward.
Yeah. And RLUSD, you were listed on Aave, Kraken, now Gemini. What's next for Ripple USD, and where do you see the momentum?
Well, we're certainly coming on to more exchanges that we'll be announcing here in the coming weeks. Also, we're seeing already demand from the hidden road clients, for example, who want to use RLUSD as collateral and using that in their own trade flows. So we're appealing to a number of regulators, for example, to approve RLUSD and other stablecoins that are issued like us as good collateral. That's a huge unlock for where I think the business can go. I do think the market cap will grow here. The big advantage of the legislation that's being proposed, we're already in a good pace from a regulatory standpoint. Some have suggested, hey, keep the moat tight. We'd rather have that moat unlocked and have more participants because we think as long as you're abiding by the rules, that will induce greater market growth. And that big opportunity is massive when you think about not only cross-border payments, but capital markets. We're talking to some interesting sovereign wealth funds. We're talking to trade finance companies. We're talking to large charitable organizations. I mean, the use cases that can just exponentially grow once you have available a stable coin like RLUSD that meets the criteria that institutions are used to using, per your question earlier, and that have the infrastructure to support how they want to utilize it.
Jack, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on
Thanks for
Trade
having
Talks.
me.
And thanks for joining us on Consensus. I'm Jill Malangerino, Global Markets Reporter at NASDAQ.